is a video that I am very passionate about because it was my ticket of exploration to find myself. And I've been confused for a very long time, and so, you know what? We're rolling. Okay, so what am I? I'm somewhere between sex-indifferent and sex-repulsed, omniromantic, pansensual, gray-demisexual. I know that's a mouthful, and this is why I'm going to explain it to you. Be prepared, it'll be a long video. Firstly, I'd like to define the different forms of attraction, because I think everyone defines them differently. I realized that my main problem was I didn't understand the differences in attraction. I only ever heard of like physical attraction, sexual attraction. I never really realized that there's these things called romantic attraction, sensual attraction, sexual attraction, aesthetic attraction, and there's also other attractions, but I'm going to focus on the ones I just mentioned. Go first. Romantic attraction. To me, romantic attraction is wanting an exclusive relationship with someone. You could see a future with them, maybe even a marriage or a family with them. By the way, I'm looking down because I wrote it down, because when I write things down, they make better sense. I'm gonna pull my computer up so I can kind of look at you. You maybe feel jealous if someone flirts with that person, or maybe even talks to them, or makes them laugh. You want to belong to that person, and have that person belong to you. Maybe you'd want them to talk to you or text you daily, and you'd want to go on romantic dates with them. You'd want to slow dance with them and have them whisper sweet things into your ear. Maybe you'd want them to spoon you or hold you sweetly. You'd want them to court you. You'd feel protective over them, not controlling, just that you wouldn't want anyone to hurt them. You'd want to do crazy romantic things for them, like big stupid things to show that you love them. It's basically someone that you can imagine falling in love with. This is how I define it. Now, I'm holding my computer because I wrote it down, which I mentioned already. Anyways, I can experience romantic attraction for all genders and sexes. Some people say that omniromantic and panromantic are interchangeable, and I personally disagree, as do some others. Okay, usually people use this in the sexual term. I've never heard anyone say omniromantic or panromantic, but that's because I feel like no one really defines other forms of attraction, and people should, hence the video. Some say that pans are gender blind, whereas omnis are aware of the gender difference but don't care. That's how I feel when it comes to romantic attraction. I'm aware of what gender or sex a person is before I feel this attraction. Now, to be specific, don't be a little smartass and be like, well, obviously, you know if that person's a girl. Yes, okay, I don't mean it like that. I mean it like, I will be like, hey look, that girl is pretty. It's a girl. I recognize it's a girl. And I'll be like, oh man, it's a girl. Oh, I kinda have this romantic attraction for her. As opposed to just, I don't care who that is, but I have a romantic attraction for them. I do recognize what they are, and I kind of have to recognize it first before I feel that attachment. I'll try and go into that later. Lots of times, I need to make an emotional attachment to someone before I feel romantic attraction to them, but that's not always the case. I have often felt romantic attraction to strangers or random passerbys. Also, I'd like to note that though this hasn't happened yet, I could see myself experiencing romantic attraction for non-humans, for example, aliens or robots, possibly even animals. I know this sounds weird, but it is what it is. In this case though, I think I'd have to develop that emotional connection first. Call it weird or messed up or whatever, but being honest with myself, I know I have a very large romantic capability. I can't really explain it fully, but I know that when I say this, it fits, so there you go. Next, sensual attraction. Sensual attraction is the desire for non-sexual touch, so like skinship, if you're familiar with that. But more than that. Well, to me, there's two levels of sensual attraction, soft and hard. I've actually never heard anyone define it this way, so be prepared for something unique. Soft sensual attraction is the desire to hug, cuddle, hold hands with, maybe even sweetly kiss someone, you know, like a peck on the cheek. You'd want to touch them and hold them, but basically all these things would be in a warm, sweet, soft sort of way, like as if they're a fluffy stuffed animal. Then there's hard sensual attraction. Still non-sexual, but leaning more towards sexual. You'd want to sensually touch this person maybe, like dance with them, grind on them, kiss them more passionately, make out with them. Either way, you'd want to touch this other person's body. Again, non-sexually. Again, this is how I define it. Sometimes I feel only soft sensual attraction, and sometimes I feel only hard. Sometimes I feel both for the same person. But I feel it for all genders. This time I chose pan and not omni because I am gender blind when it comes to sensual attraction. I feel this type of attraction most often. I'm a very sensual being. And it's mostly soft sensual attraction. I actually often feel soft sensual attraction for my close friends. Yeah. However, I don't think I'd feel this way for non-humans, as far as I know. And for animals, I wouldn't call it the same thing. I mean, sure, I like to cuddle, tackle, pet, etc. animals, but I wouldn't file that under sensual attraction? I don't know, it just seems like a different category to me. Anyways, I usually don't need to make an emotional connection to someone for me to feel sensual attraction for them. I think my sensual attraction is most like people's sexual attraction. It's what I most crave. We'll get to this in a second, but I don't usually feel horny. I feel the sensual equivalent of it. Next, the big one, sexual attraction. Okay, to me, sexual attraction is finding someone sexually appealing. Like maybe you find their sexual organs or genitals appealing, or maybe you want to touch those genitals. Or maybe you find inherently non-sexual body parts, like boobs or butt, attractive in a way that you want to touch them and you feel turned on by looking at them, imagining touching them. Turned on would be that warm feeling in your genitals. That feeling like you want sex, or to do sexual things. Maybe it's that warm, hot feeling that is sort of like hunger but not, that covers your whole body. It's the attraction that makes you horny. Horny being the overwhelming feeling that you want to have sex or do sexual things with someone. I'm not really good at defining this one because I don't feel it very often. But, again, this is how I define it. Okay. Now, gray and demisexual are under the asexual spectrum. Asexuals do not feel sexual attraction. Asexuality is not about liking or wanting sex, it is only about sexual attraction, or the lack of, actually. Demisexuals are people who only feel sexual attraction after they've made an emotional attachment to someone. Again, not about sex. You might think, well, duh, I don't want to have sex with someone until I get to know them better, but no, it's not that. It's a common misconception, I understand it, because I used to be confused, but you need to listen to me, and you need to educate yourself. You literally do not feel sexual attraction until you make this emotional attachment. It's hard to explain, but if it's not making sense to you, you probably aren't demisexual. But anyway, then gray sexuals are elsewhere on the asexual spectrum that don't have a label that really fits them. It's hard to explain, but you can Google that and it'll probably make better sense to you. So I identify as gray demisexual because I am mostly demisexual. Generally, I don't feel sexual attraction for people until I get to know them. Sometimes I have to make a romantic attraction to them first, but sometimes not. It could be a friend I've gotten to know over a while, or someone I had prolonged crush on, or it could be an acquaintance whose company I've gotten used to. Basically, it's someone that I feel like I can trust and be relaxed around. Once I feel like I can trust them or feel safe around them, or if I love them or fall in love with them, then I might be able to develop sexual attraction for them. But that's not always the case. And sometimes it's not someone that I made an emotional attachment to, hence the gray. It could be a celebrity that I've admired for a long time. For example, I feel sexual attraction to Enrique Iglesias. I have a theory behind why this is, but it's kind of long and hard to explain. But he's an example of an exception to the rule, hence why I've chosen gray demisexual instead of just demisexual. And I know I could say demi-gray, but gray demisexual sounds better to me. Also, I do sometimes have sexual attraction to fictional characters, like in books or movies, but that's also in the same lines. I think it's also more demisexual than gray though, because it's like I feel like I've made an attachment to them because I've gotten to know them through the book or the movie. Anyways. Oh, and on rare occasions, I do feel it for strangers. Very rare occasions. There's actually only one moment I can think of where I was horny. One moment in my 20 years of life that I was horny. And it was for someone that I knew. Yeah. And sometimes I feel sexual attraction as a result of certain emotions and not because of people. Kinky. But that's another story. And I don't feel like getting into that right now. Anyways, basically, my sexual attraction is the hardest for me to define or explain, but gray demisexual is the closest I found that fits it. Okay, aesthetic attraction. I feel like a lot of people forget about this one. Me, I definitely forgot. You can Google this, but yeah, I feel this all the time for lots of things. People, animals, pictures, art, landscapes, houses, cartoons, whatever. I just find things beautiful and admirable. It's things that I like looking at because they're nice on the eyes. Things that I could put up on my wall and stare at. And of course, some people fall into this category. Some people are just beautiful. Let's just face it. Beautiful in a way that lets me admire their physical qualities and enjoy looking at them, but feel no desire to touch them, sexually or non-sexually, or want any sort of relationship with them. This is usually what I feel towards celebrities, despite their genders or sex. I also feel this a lot for strangers or passerbys, and with friends. It's natural to be aesthetically attracted to things. I mean, why be creative if you can't find things beautiful? Generally, when people are commenting on how sexy or beautiful someone is, they are probably feeling sexual attraction. I'm agreeing, but on an aesthetic level. Like, people be like, oh man, he's sexy, he's got a nice ass, I want to smack it. I'm like, yeah, he does have a nice body. Okay, then of course there are other attractions, like emotional and intellectual attraction, but I haven't really in-depthly researched those yet, and I don't feel like they're that important to me right now, so maybe another video. But yeah, to me, all of these attractions are exclusive of one another. Some people I only feel sensual attraction for, others I feel both romantic and sensual for. I rarely feel horny, like I mentioned. Usually I feel the romantic equivalent or the sensual equivalent. So if horny is that desire for sex or sexual touch, then romantic equivalent is the desire for exclusive relationship, and the sensual equivalent is a desire for non-sexual touch. There needs to be words for this. The last thing I want to mention. I used to think that asexual meant no interest in sex, which is a common misconception. But now that I know that it's about attraction, I still feel the need to express the levels of interest in sex. I see some asexuals label themselves as sex-repulsed or sex-indifferent, but personally, I feel that all people should be specific in this, because both asexuals and sexuals. Allosexuals, I guess they're called. Because if some asexuals can like sex and experience libido, then sexuals should be able to not like sex and not experience libido. Am I right? Well, for me, I'm somewhere between sex-repulsed and sex-indifferent. Sometimes it seems like I'm repulsed by the idea of sex, but personally, I think that's because of previous experiences with sex. I have never found sex enjoyable, and would be very happy in a relationship without sex. However, I can imagine sex being wonderful and loving and enjoyable with the right person, so I'm not exactly indifferent about it. I'm somewhere between. Anyway, lastly, if you've made it through this video, kudos to you. It's a long-ass video. Now I want you to take your own journey. I know this is a big thing to ask of you, but I feel that everyone should be on this journey. Really, just sit down and think about it. Really think about it. Like, take a lot of time to think about it. Days, weeks, months, years if you have to. Because this right here is a result of months of casually thinking about it. And though I feel closer to my true identity, I'm not 100% certain that this is exactly me. But I want you to take this journey. It might be stressful or confusing, but don't give up on it. It's important. And there's really nothing you can lose from this journey. You become more aware of the orientations out there, and you can also educate your family and friends on what is out there to hopefully make our society a more accepting and open one. I want you to find out what you are and be content with the identity you choose, because you are unique, and odds are, there isn't a label out there right now that completely identifies you. Because there's not enough labels out there for every human in this world. We're each so unique. But you deserve to find out who you are, and you owe it to yourself. So I'm calling this as a tag because I want anyone who sees this to take their own journey and then share their identity. You don't have to make a video about it, but at least you can share it with your friends or with a random person or with me if you want to. But you should share it. I think the key to many identities is awareness. You might think you're the only one like you, and though you might be, it's likely there's someone else who's like you but just doesn't know it yet because they haven't really explored. Am I making sense? Probably not. Oh well. Just remember, Tolkien said, "Not all those who wander are lost." So get journeying.